somehow I believe we'd always survive. Why?
It is important that we start doing this research. There's much confusion out there. We have many different groups and organizations of black people, whether they want to be called black or not, that are promoting a lot of propaganda where they do research to no end in the English language as well as other European languages, but they totally exclude African languages from the data gathering process altogether. Our people need to learn how to look at evidence, because any research that is allegedly about African people that doesn't include African sources of information, African linguistic, cultural, and contextual evidence, and the means to verify it is a deception. I do this in the hopes of ending once and for all this time-consuming argument about our general identity. The people who proclaimed that they were white never did so when they were only among themselves. The only time that they proclaim themselves white is when they come into contact with African people and other people of color in general. More importantly, for them, this declaration was about creating division between themselves and everyone else. It was born out of the motivation and goal of exploiting people by using the strategy of highlighting difference. Our declaration of our blackness is markedly different from when that certain group of people started traveling the world and declaring that they were white. It must be understood that black people declared their blackness among themselves originally because it was a proclamation of unity, a recognition of familyhood amongst us. It was a unifying principle for us, and this was the full extent of it. We were calling ourselves black with no white people around. And when they did start coming around, they saw that we referred to ourselves by various names denoting the various levels of our identity, including black. So again, white people didn't originate the practice of calling us black, we did. What white people did was replace our national identities with the term black, much like they replaced our matrilineal and patrilineal clan identities with their own family names. We never called ourselves black in the stead or in the place of our national identities. We recognize black people across black nations in general as our extended international family members, while still holding on to the ties that bind our respective national families right on down to our nuclear family. Another issue that can sometimes arise even after we've presented this argument with facts to support it is some people's preoccupation with grades and shades of color. You're going to have some that come and say, well, I'm not actually the color black, I'm actually brown, or I'm actually kind of light brown, or some will start getting into calling themselves by the names of certain foods in order to describe their grade or shade of color. I have only 2 points here. For one, what we've been taught about color from white people is not how African people look at color. This should be evident from the presentation. Not only do we not definitively look at color the same way they do, but even when it comes to just superficial appearance, we see things differently. For some African people, for instance, the color blue is a variation of the color white. It's seen as an intense form of white. For African people in general, a lot of the darker colors, including brown, are simply considered forms of the color black. So I would say give your African self, your African perspective and point of view a chance. Don't dismiss the African cultural context altogether because of what you've been taught by white people about color. Give what your ancestors and ancestresses came up with a chance. Secondly, when we take note of the fact that we recognized each other as black people originally regardless of our shades from light to dark, we realized that the declaration of blackness was more so about recognizing family ties and origin, recognizing that commonality that we are the first and only created people on the planet. We were the ones that the Creator and the Creatress created out of the original and organic black matter of the universe itself. We're the only mathematical result that exists for the equation of the creation of human beings. That is the African perspective. Now, if you don't like how white folk define blackness, you have a couple of options. You can continue to exhibit a schizophrenic mind state whereby you approach everything that life is about, including even various movements centered around the black struggle, through a European cultural paradigm, or you can give yourself and your people a chance. Hatep.